pretty much just an exercise on, I don't know, evaluating expressions. I mean, none which I think you know. I think you need a calculator, to be honest with you. So let's get started. So the first one is the cube root of negative 8 over 27. So the cube root of a negative number is negative, so you can already put it like that. So think about three fractions, all three being the same, that when I multiply, so this is going to be negative, negative, and negative first of all. When I multiply them, same number on top, same number at the bottom, it gives me 8, and the bottom gives me 27. So think about that, and you already know it's going to be 2 times 2 times 2, and that gives me negative 8. And at the bottom, 27 would be 3 times 3 times 3. So we're going to put a 9. So the cube root of negative 8 over 27 is negative 8. Sorry, negative 8 over, sorry. Cube root of negative 8 over 27 is negative 2 over 3, right? Because this fraction multiplied by itself 3 times gives us negative 8 over 27. Plus the cube root of 64 over 125. And again, we're looking for same three fractions, and this is positive, so the cube root is already positive. The cube root of 64 on top is 4 times 4 times 4, and at the bottom 125 is 5 times 5 times 5, and that gives me 64 over 25. So the cube root of 64 over 25 is 4 over 5. That's what I would do first, and then you can easily just put that in your calculator, or actually do it manually. It's really up to you. And those of you who feel nostalgic, you can do this without a calculator and work on your adding fractions skills. So the final answer is 2 over 15. Now for this question, I told you in class, for those of you who were present, that I want you really to put a multiplication sign to remind yourself, because that's 5 times the cube root of 64 minus 5 to the third power. So if I were to do this in steps, 5 stays as it is. The cube root of 64 is 4. Minus 5 to the third power is 125. So that's right. These two expressions are exactly the same, but the second line written in standard notation. 5 times 4 is 20. Minus 125, and again, that's just because negative 105. Again, do yourselves a favor, put a multiplication sign, and then that is not 9 to the third power, it's 9 times the cube root of 27, so it's 9 times the cube root of 27, which is 3, minus 3 times the cube root of 216, which is 6, so it's 3 times 6. 9 times 3 is 27, 3 times 6 is 18, final answer is 9. 2 times the cube root of negative 1,000, and again, the cube root of a negative number is a negative, so it's negative 10, plus 2 times the cube root of 512, which is just 8, because 8 times 8 times 8 is 512, times 8. 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. 2 times 8 is 16. They're both positive, right? So that's a multiplication sign. Let me just rewrite that a little prettier. 2 times 8 is 16. And negative 20 plus 16 is just negative 4. This one is just asking you to find the cube root, right, of negative 8 over 27. And we know the cube root of a negative number is always negative, so it's just going to be 2 over 3, because negative 2 over 3 times negative 2 over 3 times negative 2 over 3 is negative 8 over 27. Okay. The next one is the same thing. You're asked for the cube root of 343. And that's just, well, the positive cube root of 343, which is positive 7. Because 7 times 7 times 7 is 343. Again, here, I want you to put a 4 times. So it's, so it's 4 times the negative cube root of negative 125, which is negative 5. Right? So, again, this has the same value as this, right? It's just 2 numbers written in different ways. So 4 times negative 5 gives you negative 20. 7 times the cube root of positive 1,000 is just 7 times 10, which gives us 70. So a lot of these you don't really need a calculator, right? Again, I'm going to put a multiplication sign, so it's negative 2 times the cube root of 343, which is 7, minus 9 times the cube root of negative 64, which is negative 4. So just now follow order of operations. And again, if you have a calculator in your test, you can just plug that in. So this is 2 times 7, sorry, negative 2 times 7, negative 14. Negative 9 and negative 4 is just going to give you positive 36. And then 36 minus 14 is going to give us positive 22. Two fractions, right? So let's find a cube root of negative 27 over 64. So we know it's negative. And it's 3 over 4. Plus 5 over 8. Right, so if you do this without a calculator, you find the common denominator, which is 8. So it's the equivalent fraction, 3/4 written in eighths would be 6 over 8. So if you multiply the bottom by 2, you multiply the top by 2. So you get negative 6 over 8 plus 5 over 8 positive, and just negative 1 over 8. Yeah. Again, pretty simple. Now we're doing square roots. Now square roots, so think about square roots. Right, so square root of 25. 25 is a perfect square, it's just 5. Plus 6 times the square root of 36, which is 6. So we get negative 5 plus 36. And negative 5 plus 36 is just 31 positive. Here, square root of 4, let me change square root of 4 to standard notation. It just becomes a number 2, which we're going to take the second power. Minus 5 times the square root of 9, which is 3. So now I can do this. 2 to the second power is 4. Minus 5 times 3, which is 15. And 4 minus 15 is negative 11. Negative 5 times the square root of 36 is 6. Minus 2 times the square root of 81, which is 9. Negative 5 times 6 is negative 30. Negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. Final answer, negative 48. Square root of 9 over 49. So again, think about what two fractions multiplied give you 9 over 49, right? Same fraction. So on top has to be 3 times 3, and the bottom has to be 7 times 7. So the square root of 9 over 49 is 3 over 7. Minus the square root of 36 over 49 is 6 over 7. And this one is a nice negative 3 over 7. Okay. Again, let's continue. 6, put a dot there. 6 times the square root of 64, which is 8, minus 4 times the square root of 4, which is 2. Negative 6 times 8 is negative 48. Minus 4 times 2 is 8. Final answer, negative 56. The square root of 16 over 21 is just 4 over 11, right? Because 4 over 11 times 4 over 11 is 16 over 122. Changes to a, so we're going to negate the square root of 36 over 49, which is 6 over 7. And then plus 2 over 7. Because it's going to give us negative 4 over 7. Cube root, again, we're back to the cube roots. What do I have a feeling that I did this before? So cube root of a negative number is negative, and cube root of negative 27 of 64 is 3 over 4. Plus the positive cube root of 125 over 212, which is 5 over 8. And I'm pretty sure we did this before. This is going to be, well, let's change this to an equivalent fractions. 3 over 4 written in 8s is the same thing as 6 over 8. So final answer, negative 1 over 8. Square root of 225, and again, remember, when we're taking the square root, right, and you'll see this more clear when we do the equation, so clearer. Square root of 225 is just 15. This one says negate, right, the square root of 9. Well, the square root of 9 is 3. If we negate that, we get negative 3. Negative 5 times the square root of 36 is 6, minus 2 times the square root of 81, which is 9. We get negative 30, minus 18, negative 48. Square root of 9 over 49 is 3 over 7. And square root of 36 over 49 is 6 over 7. Negative 3 over 7. I think these are repeats. Now, this says solve and check. Okay. First one. what is the question is saying? There's a number x that currently I don't know what the value is, but if I take that to the third power, meaning I multiply the number by itself 3 times, I'm going to get negative 512. You can put this in your calculator, but on the test I need to show work. So how is a solve and check? So let's solve it first. How do I get x cubed to look like this, right? Well, what the first thing we're going to do is to get rid of that 3, we're going to take the cube root of that. And if I take the cube root of the left side, I must take the cube root of the right side. This allows for these two to cancel, simplify, and I'm left with x to the first power. And the cube root of a negative number, first of all, is negative, and the cube root of negative 512 is negative 8. Check. Let me write check over here. Going back to my original equation, and make sure that the left side equals the right. So let's substitute instead of x, I'm write negative 8 to the third power. Is negative 8 times negative 8 times negative 8 512 negative? Yes, it is. So then we know our answer is correct. Let me take care of the cubes first. Again, the bottom, another negative. Same thing. How do I get that to look like this? Because I want a value for h, not h cubed. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the cube root of both sides. And this on the left side simplifies, and I get h by itself, h to the first power. On the right side, I take the cube root, and we'll find out what that is in a second. And that is just 11, so negative 11. Do your check is negative 11 to the third power equal to negative 1,331, right? I'm replacing the h over here with negative 11. So in your calculator, just do negative 11 times negative 11 times negative 11, and you'll see that it is indeed correct. Right? Very simple equations. Now, on the right side, let me do something a little bit different. So, x squared, so I'm going to do x squared minus 5 equals 44. This equation and this equation is exactly the same, except that on the one on the left, you have to do a little extra step. So I'm only showing you this because it will be on your test. I mean, it's the same answer, except that we have to do a little extra step. So go back to the equations, right? So when you had an equation, line in the middle divides our equation to the two expressions on the left. Oh, sorry, one expression on the left, one on the right. We want to isolate x, right? First of all, let's get rid of the minus 5. We do plus 5 over here, plus 5. The 5 goes away because they're additive inverse, they're zeros. X squared comes down. And notice that now I have exactly the same thing as I have over here, just with an extra step. So now let's solve it. And again, how do I get x squared to look like just like x? I'm going to take the square root of the left side and take the square root on the right side. The 2's allow my x to be simplified to exponent of 1, just x, and then square root of 49. In this case, is plus or minus 7. And I'll tell you why. So let's go to the check part, and the check, I think, will answer whatever question. So the check says, hey, take both answers. So we found that the answer to this, the value of x to be plus or minus 7, so let's do a check. So on the first one, let's do positive 7. So if I take positive 7, square it, or take it to the second power, does it give me 49? Yes, it does. Let's do the second check. Let's take negative 7 and raise it to the second power. Does it give you 49? Yes, it does, because negative 7 times negative 7, and negative times a negative is a positive, and 7 times 7 is 49, and guess what? There are two solutions. So the solution to this equation is x equals plus or negative 7. So again, this would be your full work. M squared equals 256. Again, what do I do to both sides? We're going to take the square root of this side, and we're going to take the square root of the right side. These two m simplifies, and then m is by itself isolated, and take the square root of 56, and it's going to be plus or minus 16. Right? So, do your check. Your check says, hey, see if it's true. take 16 first, the positive or the negative. Well, I'm taking the positive, square it, see if it equals to 256, and indeed it does. Then take negative 16, make sure you put it in parentheses. Take it to the second power, and does it also give you 16? Yes, it does. So the solution to this equation, m equals plus or minus 16. Okay, so just, that's it. Monday, I give you a review sheet, which will be for your test, which is already ready for Friday in your case, or depending on your class, either Thursday or Friday. Okay, all right, we end it here.